with another episode of the Stitchy side of SPT, and I'm here with the former Big Brother runner-up Season 3, MJ vs. Lucas survivor Finley. So, hello Finley, how does it feel to be on the podcast?
Well, it's good. I have no kids at the moment, but I'm dating someone you probably know, but how about you?
Well, I'm doing good. I am wanting to talk about this topic for a few podcasts ago, but since I couldn't do two, and not being fitted between the people, so I can talk about this topic. So the topic is about being neurodivergent. So you was the first autistic person to be on Big Brother and on LJR show, so how does it feel to have that kind of great presentation for the autistic community?
Well, it's not the easiest path, because being autism is not a thing that is a roadblock, but being autistic is a superpower for me because I know I can use that to my advantage, and I think people like you and Kelly examples of why we need more neurodivergent people to be on our show, because we need more about station of that. But how was your experience?
I am just going to say it's been probably the hardest vote that I ever had to do with the severe bullying that I received, and sometimes the show shows our weakness, and sometimes it's not easy to not show it because it's not because of being disabled, it's not because my brain works, definitely it's just having to deal with something in the Big Brother house 24/7, and it's the hardest journey of my life. Because I was constantly bullied, constantly targeted because of my disability in Big Brother, and as for Guadalupe, I felt like I had to work 25 times harder than anyone out in the cast to make sure that I done my bidding, and I am proud to have one of the very few people to win a different reality TV show twice, and I feel proud of it, and that's why I'm probably the biggest name out there child-wise, because it's just who I am, and that's a story. But my next question is, who made your life in the Big Brother house more miserable than most, and why?
Very easy, Jeffy, because when he bullied me because I had autism, and he's not a very good person, and I have no idea why Jay keeps constantly invites him, because Jeffy is going to constantly do the same old stuff, and going to over and over and over again. But in defense, it's Jeffy, and I just hope that you do not have to deal with him, and if you do, I pray to God that if he does one thing to you, I'll make sure that I'll give you a restraining order against Jeffy. But what about you?
It's very hard for me to talk about this. But Jeremy, because Aunt Kabir, both of them burned my stitch in Big Brother, and there's something with my medicine, which was putting my medicine in the house lemonade that Abigail made, and I just feel like it's so hard to not talk about it because it's just very difficult. And on day 57 Jeremy suffocated me that I couldn't breathe, which made me have to be pulled from the game for a little bit to see medical, and he is out there being I don't know, but it's hard for me to deal with all this. But hey, I want they didn't. So on day 10 when Jeremy won the second head of household, he told me that my mom died as a lie to make me go spinning, that the things that I do not have to deal with him for now. So my next question is, what day was the hardest in the Big Brother house for you, and why?
In All Stars, when Jeffy said my parents want to stone me because Dad just broke my heart, because I knew that she would not do that to me. I was the only kid, and for JP to say that, it kinda made me go stupid by crying in the restroom downstairs. But what about you?
I would have to say day 94, which is called the most infamous day of Big Brother 8. It was so bad at 2:24 p.m. that's when I had the biggest sensory emotional meltdown, and I thought that I messed up because I put up Jordan and Abigail on the block, and I felt like I was a bad human for doing this, which kinda makes me sad talking about it because I never want to nominate my friends ever again, and if I do not know what I'm going to do. But day 94 was the hardest. I would talk about it, but since it's like so long, I don't want it to be like this until we have to get to a couple questions about Survivor. So how did you get on to Survivor, and what you think you're done on Big Brother lead you to be on Survivor?
I was a very good runner-up, and I think it mainly because of my competition wins. So what about you?
I think mine has to deal with my story. He may be loyal to my people, and we also win in competitions when I needed to, so I think that's why I was on. But my next question is, if you was not doing challenges or tribals, what do you usually do to pass the time?
Well, the one thing that I do when I pass the time is get a tag, because if there's nothing else that need to be done, I just do that. But what about you?
Well, I usually like to play around in the sand, but not getting all dirty and sticky within the sand, but just, drawing in the sand. And another thing that I do to pass the time is play with my bus, and find the way to wear a buff, and I feel like that the silliest way to wear your buff is like you wearing it like a cape. That's the silliest way. But my next question is, what buff style do you usually go with, and why?
Whatever I'm in the mood of, but it's mostly as a shirt, because it's kinda cool to wear your buff like that. But what about you?
Mainly drag or as a shirt, because it's my personal preference, but I just hope I do not get cancelled for saying that. But anyway, one more Survivor question before we get to the main topic. But if you was on Survivor again, what is gonna be your strategy and why you think that strategy will work?
Well, the only thing that I can do is take it on one by one, day by day, and just go from there because that's how I think about it. What about you?
Well, I know I am going to have a huge target on my back when I get returned for that show. The only thing that I can do is let the Survivor gods handle the business, and I'll just do it from down. But it's time to talk about the personal topic being neurodivergent, but my first question about that is how old you realized that you was diagnosed with autism?
Well, my autistic journey started when I was 8 years old, and it's hard, but the one thing that I knew that I liked to do is not giving up and enjoying my life even when people bully me in school. I do not cry about it. I just let it happen and move on because I know that consequences is going to happen with them sooner than later. So what about you?
Well, when I was 4, I only knew one word, which was bow, because I liked to wear bows. And my mom was worried I'm the only woman. Very few selective of clothing kinda made it seem that I had sensory processing disorder. And sometimes it's hard because there's some things that I just do not like doing, but getting that mine is on the mild side, which is a good thing. But I will remember going to my house every day when I was 4, going to elementary school, and in pre-K go home. Tell my mom that I am being bullied every single day, and it never stopped, and the teachers never done nothing about this. And when my mom had enough when I was 6, we decided to move to Delaware to do homeschool, which worked 10 times better for me, and I just like having SPT because it's my superpower, so I just like it. But my next question is, did it affect it when you was doing extra things like sports or anything like that?
Yeah, it did, because it just made it obvious when I was doing tumbling. I was struggling, but good thing that my teacher stepped aside and just make sure I knew how to do it by being calm, like one by one, and just go with the flow and just be easy with it. What about you?
Well, it's not easy, but when I was doing gymnastics, I probably have one of the worst gymnast body because I couldn't stop shaking, and I always have a mental block and always have these negative thoughts that someone always put in my head, while I also is just not being good at it. But same with you. My teacher made sure I knew I was doing and taking one by one, day by day, until I know how to be better, and I took private classes, which was just me and the teacher, which helped me a whole lot. But my last question is, do you think you've probably got somebody who is neurodivergent? Can you apply for reality TV?
Yes, I do, and I just hope that they have a fun time and not think about the struggles that it's going on and same for you.
Obviously, I feel like I did because it's the beauty of reality TV. Someone has to be a role model, and if you have a one person you think it isn't, they are your role model, and saying that you are there, that means a whole lot. For example, Kinsey, who is 7, who also has SPG, she also has autism and epilepsy, and I am close friends with her, and she is going to be on reality TV one day, so I'm just hoping for that. But thanks for letting me do this podcast with you, Finley. You have a good day.
Thanks, Lena, for having me here, and you have a good day yourself.
That's all the time I have for the sketchy side of SPD. I hope you enjoy this emotional episode.
The world is mine.